March 29th, 1981, Beverly Hills. The party was in full swing. 200 people packed into a mansion in the hills, champagne flowing, laughter echoing off marble floors. Everyone celebrating. Everyone except the man the party was for. Robert Redford stood in the doorway, drink in hand, watching. Alone. Completely alone. What happened in the next 20 minutes would change how Redford saw Hollywood forever. And the person who caused it? Someone he'd called a friend for 15 years. This is the story Hollywood never wanted told. The night Robert Redford realized that in a room full of people celebrating him, nobody actually knew him. To understand that night, you need to understand what was being celebrated. Ordinary People had just won Best Picture at the Oscars. Redford's directorial debut, 4 Academy Awards total, including Best Director for him. Critics who doubted him were eating their words. The pretty boy actor had proven he could direct. He'd arrived. The party was thrown by a producer named Michael Phillips. Big house, big guest list. Everyone who mattered in Hollywood was there. Dustin Hoffman, Warren Beatty, Jane Fonda, Sydney Pollack, the A-list showing up to celebrate one of their own, finally breaking through behind the camera. Redford arrived at 9 p.m., fashionably late. He walked in and the room erupted. Applause, cheers, people rushing over to shake his hand, kiss his cheek, tell him how brilliant he was. For 30 minutes, Redford worked the room, smiled, thanked people, played the part he'd played 1,000 times before, the gracious star. But something felt off. He couldn't quite name it, just a feeling in his gut, like he was watching a performance, not living a moment. At 9:45, Redford needed air. He walked to the edge of the main room, near the hallway that led to the bathrooms. He stood there with his scotch, watching the party continue without him. That's when he heard it. A conversation. Coming from the library, door slightly ajar. 2 voices. One he recognized immediately. Sydney Pollack, his director, his friend, the man who'd directed him in The Way We Were and 3 Days of the Condor. The man who'd been at Redford's side for a decade. Pollack's voice carried through the crack in the door. "I'm telling you, he's not as smart as he thinks he is." Redford froze. Another voice responded, younger, excited. Redford didn't recognize it. "But he won Best Director. He beat Scorsese." Pollack laughed, not kindly. "He won because the Academy loves a good story. Pretty Boy makes serious film. It's narrative gold. But let me tell you something. I was on that set. I saw what happened. Half of those decisions, Timothy Hutton made them. The kid actor basically co-directed the thing. Bob just took credit." Redford's grip tightened on his glass. The younger voice pressed. "So you're saying he didn't deserve it?" "I'm saying he got lucky. He picked a good script, cast it well, and stayed out of the way enough to let the actors do their jobs. That's not directing, that's delegating. But Hollywood doesn't care. They want their golden boy to succeed, so they gave him the Oscar. And now he thinks he's Scorsese." There was a pause. Then Pollack continued. "Don't get me wrong. I love Bob. He's a good friend. But he's always been better at being Robert Redford than at being an artist. That's his talent, presence, not depth." Redford stood there for 10 seconds, maybe 20. He didn't move, didn't breathe, just listened, waiting to see if Pollack would say more. He did. "The problem with Bob is he believes his own myth. He thinks because people love watching him, that means he has something important to say. But strip away the looks, the charm, the screen presence, what's left? A guy who's good at picking projects other people create. That's not genius, that's taste." The other voice laughed nervously. "You should probably not say that out loud." "Why?" "It's the truth. And truth is, everyone in this room knows it. They're just not going to say it to his face. That's Hollywood, kid. We celebrate people publicly and tear them down privately. Bob's just the latest name on the list." Redford set his glass down on a side table. Carefully, quietly. Then he turned and walked out of the house. Didn't say goodbye, didn't make a scene, just left. His own party, the celebration of his biggest achievement. He walked out the front door, got in his car, and drove home. His wife Lola was already asleep. Redford didn't wake her. He sat in his study until 4 a.m., staring at the Oscar on his desk. The statue felt heavier than it had 6 hours earlier, not because of the weight, because of what it represented. Validation he'd thought he'd earned. Respect he'd thought he'd won. All of it suddenly feeling hollow. The next morning, Lola found him still sitting there. "Bob, what happened? People called, they said you left early." Redford didn't look at her. "Do you think I'm a good director?" "What kind of question is that? You just won Best Director." "That's not what I asked." Lola sat down across from him. "What's going on?" Redford told her everything he'd heard, every word Pollack had said. Lola listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that made it worse. "Do you think he's wrong?" Redford looked up. "What?" "Sydney, do you think he's wrong? About you delegating? About the actors making choices?" "I directed that film." "I'm not saying you didn't. I'm asking if you think there's truth in what he said. Because if there isn't, why does it bother you so much?" Redford didn't have an answer. And that silence, that inability to defend himself to his own wife, told him everything he needed to know. For the next 3 weeks, Redford didn't return calls, didn't take meetings. He holed up at his ranch in Utah, working on what would become the Sundance Institute. He threw himself into building something that wasn't about him, something that helped other filmmakers, younger voices, people who had something to say and needed a platform to say it. But the wound didn't heal, and the friendship with Pollack, it was never the same. 2 months after the party, Pollack called. Redford let it go to the machine. Pollack left a message. "Bob, I don't know what's going on, but we need to talk. People are asking questions. You've been avoiding me. Call me back." Redford erased the message, didn't call back. A week later, Pollack showed up at Redford's house unannounced. Lola answered the door. "Sydney, he's not here." "Lola, come on, I know he's here. What's going on?" "You'll have to ask him." Pollack stood there frustrated. "Did I do something?" Lola looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "You should think about the things you say when you think nobody's listening." Pollack's face changed, went pale. Oh God, he heard. Lola didn't confirm or deny, just closed the door. Pollack left. He and Redford didn't speak for 2 years. When they finally reconnected, it was professional, polite, but the trust was gone. The ease was gone. They made one more film together in 1985, Out of Africa. It won Best Picture. But on set, crew members noticed the distance between them. No more inside jokes, no more long dinners after shooting, just business. In a 1986 interview, a journalist asked Redford about his friendship with Pollack. "You two used to be inseparable. What changed?" Redford smiled, that practiced public smile. "People grow. Relationships evolve. Sydney and I have great professional respect for each other. That's what matters." The journalist pressed. "But you're not friends anymore." Redford's smile faded. "I learned something important a few years ago. Friendship in Hollywood is conditional. It lasts as long as you're useful, as long as you're winning. The moment you're not, it evaporates. Sydney taught me that, and I'm grateful for the lesson." The quote made headlines. Pollack never responded publicly, but privately people said it destroyed him. He'd been caught, called out, and he knew exactly what moment Redford was referring to. But here's the part that haunted Redford more than the betrayal itself. It was what happened 2 days after the party. Redford ran into Timothy Hutton, the young actor from Ordinary People, at a restaurant. Hutton saw him and came over, excited. "Bob, the party was amazing. I'm sorry I had to leave early." Redford asked, "Did you talk to Sydney before you left?" "Yeah, briefly. Why?" "What did he say?" Hutton hesitated. He said the film was great because of the collaboration, that everyone contributed." "Did he say I contributed?" Hutton looked uncomfortable. "Bob, I don't think... Did he?" "He said you were a great producer, that you knew how to assemble a team." There it was. Even to Hutton's face, Pollack was rewriting history. Redford wasn't a director. He was a producer who happened to sit in the director's chair. And the worst part? Hutton believed it. Redford could see it in his eyes. That moment, more than the overheard conversation, more than the betrayal, broke something in Redford. Because it meant Pollack wasn't just saying those things behind his back. He was saying them to everyone, rewriting Redford's achievement in real time, and people were believing him. Redford made a decision that day. He would direct again. He'd make films that were undeniably his vision, where nobody could claim the actors or the script did the heavy lifting. Films that would prove Pollack wrong. But here's the thing, he never did. Redford directed 3 more films after Ordinary People. The Milagro Beanfield War in 1988, A River Runs Through It in 1992, The Legend of Bagger Vance in 2000. Good films, beautiful films, but none of them matched the success of Ordinary People. None of them won Best Picture. And critics started saying the same thing Pollack had said that night. Redford's a better actor than director. It ate at him, quietly, privately. He never talked about it publicly. But people close to him said the joy went out of directing for him after that night. Because every time he sat in the director's chair, he heard Pollack's voice. He's not as smart as he thinks he is. And here's what made it worse. In 1986, Pollack directed Out of Africa, won Best Picture, 7 Oscars total. And suddenly, everyone was calling Pollack a master filmmaker. The trades ran articles comparing him to Redford. Pollack proves he's the real deal while Redford struggles to find his second hit. Redford read those articles, every single one. His wife found them stashed in his office drawer, folded carefully, like evidence he was collecting against himself. When she asked him why he kept them, he said, "Because I need to remember what people really think." "Bob, these are critics. They don't know you." Neither did Sydney, and he was my friend for 15 years. That's when Lola realized how deep the wound went. This wasn't about one comment at one party. This was about Redford's entire sense of self being shaken. He'd spent his whole career being told he was special, gifted, chosen. And in one conversation, Sydney Pollack had planted a seed of doubt that grew into a forest of insecurity. The breaking point came in 1987. Redford was at Sundance, working with a young filmmaker on a script. The kid was talented, raw, reminded Redford of himself 30 years earlier. They were talking about a scene when the kid said something. "You know what I love about your films? You always trust your instincts." Redford stopped. "What makes you think I trust my instincts?" The kid looked confused. "Because you're Robert Redford. You've been doing this for decades. Of course you trust yourself." Redford stared at him, then said quietly, "I don't think I've trusted my instincts since 1981. The kid didn't know what to say. Redford realized he'd revealed too much. He changed the subject. But that moment stayed with him, because it was the first time he'd admitted out loud what he'd been feeling for 6 years. That night at the party had broken something fundamental. His belief in his own judgment, his confidence in his own voice. And once that's broken, everything else becomes a struggle. In 2002, Redford was asked in an interview what his biggest regret was. He paused for a long time, then said, "I regret caring what other people thought. I regret letting someone else's opinion become the voice in my head. I regret not trusting my own instincts enough to tell that voice to shut up." The interviewer asked who the person was. Redford just smiled. "Doesn't matter. The damage was done, and I let it happen. That's on me." Sydney Pollack died in 2008. Redford attended the funeral, gave a eulogy, talked about their films together, their friendship, their shared love of storytelling. It was gracious, warm, everything you'd expect from Robert Redford. But people who knew the history said there was something missing, a distance, an emotional wall. After the funeral, someone asked Redford, "Did you two ever resolve things?" Redford shook his head. "Some things don't get resolved, they just get lived with." "Do you forgive him?" Redford thought about it. "I forgive him for saying it. I don't forgive him for meaning it. There's a difference." Here's what that night in 1981 taught Robert Redford. It's not the enemies who hurt you. It's the friends, the people you trust, the ones you let close enough to see your doubts, your fears, your insecurities. because they're the ones who know exactly where to aim the knife. Sydney Pollack didn't hate Redford. He was probably jealous, frustrated that Redford won an Oscar for directing when Pollack had been trying for years. But jealousy doesn't excuse cruelty. And what Pollack did that night, talking about Redford like he wasn't a real director, like his Oscar was a fluke, that was cruel. And Redford never forgot it. He carried it for the rest of his life. You can see it in interviews, the way he talks about ordinary people, always defensive, always explaining his choices, always trying to prove he earned it, like he's still arguing with Pollack's ghost. That's the real tragedy. Not that the friendship ended, but that Redford let Pollack's words define him. Let them become the measuring stick for every film he directed after. Let them steal the joy of his greatest achievement. In 2018, Redford gave his last major interview before retiring. The journalist asked about ordinary people. "Do you think it deserved Best Picture?" Redford smiled, sad this time. "I used to wonder that. I used to question it. But you know what? I don't anymore. I made a film I was proud of. It connected with people. It won awards. Whether I deserve them or not doesn't matter. I can't change the past. I can only decide how much power I give it over my present." That sounds like you've made peace with it. "No," Redford said. "It sounds like I'm tired of fighting it." Look, if this story hit you, if it reminded you of a time someone you trusted said something that changed how you saw yourself, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Let me know I'm not alone in telling these uncomfortable truths. And if you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? We're digging into the real Hollywood, the painful moments, the betrayals, the stuff they don't put in the documentaries. Drop a comment. Tell me, have you ever overheard someone you trusted talking about you behind your back? How did you handle it? Did you confront them or walk away? Turn on those notifications, because next time, we're telling the story of the night Jack Nicholson told Robert Redford he'd never be a great actor. What happened next destroyed their friendship for good. Remember, Hollywood sells you the fairy tale, the friendships, the loyalty, the family. But the truth? It's a business. And in business, people will smile to your face and sell you out the moment you leave the room. Robert Redford learned that the hard way. At his own party, celebrating his own success, standing alone in a room full of people who didn't really know him, and maybe never did.